We off?
30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes!
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
It's the Friday News Roundup. We're talking about the state of Philly. Pew Charitable Trust says Philly's safer, but the rent is still too darn high. An Amtrak bribery scandal filled with Bruno Mars tickets, a $4,700 dog, and cigars at Ashton's. And why are Bella Vista neighbors beefing with Angelo's Pizzeria? It's Friday, April 25th. I'm Trinae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about. Joining me this week at the Fiddler Club is CityCast Philly executive producer Matt Katz. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Trinae, so much to get to today. It's crazy.
I know. So this week, Pew Charitable Trust, they released their annual report, which is the state of the city. You know, it gives us an update on the current conditions of Philly. Topics include, like, what are the demographics, life expectancy, poverty rates, crime, housing costs. It looks at jobs in the economy, even trash and recycling collection. There was a section of the report that even highlighted voter turnout and how many registered community gardens are in Philly, which I didn't know, but the answer is 19.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly in Queen Village and Bella Vista. This year's report also, wanted to focus really on the years after the pandemic and looking at how the city has maybe recovered or not recovered from some of the challenges that we faced during the pandemic.
Start off with the positive stuff. Our homicide and shooting rates down to historic lows. I was looking at the comparison to other cities. Our homicide rate is now lower than Washington, D.C., Detroit, Cleveland, Chicago, Baltimore. These are all things that we should celebrate and hope the numbers get lower and lower. I was also interested in the fact that our population ticked up just a bit. We're not at where we were just before the pandemic, but maybe we're getting there. We're also not anywhere near where we were in 1950, where we had about 2 million people. Now we're around 1.6 million. And that's just interesting to me because there's still so much room for people in the city. And it also means that the mayor's plan to build a hell of a lot more housing in the city, there's space to do it, right? And that also gets to the other thing, the kind of a negative thing in the report is just the rent. Yeah. Almost half of renters were spending 30% of or more of their income on housing, and that's considered too damn high. That's considered a level in which you cannot afford to otherwise live properly. So that's obviously a negative, but there was some other good stuff. I mean, the enrollment in the schools is up. Graduation rate is up to 74%. I mean, still a quarter of Philadelphia school kids aren't graduating, but, it's trending in the right direction. On the flip side, on the school thing, a percentage of 3- and 4-year-olds attending nursery school and preschools down compared to before the pandemic. So that's something city officials should be looking at. Anything else in there that caught your attention?
Also, how remote and hybrid workers impact business districts, right? So think about the restaurants and coffee shops that rely on foot traffic. They're not seeing as many people coming into their shops. And then also Philly's labor force is impacted by SEPTA, which, has its own set of problems,
Sure.
But less people on SEPTA because of remote and hybrid work, less ridership that impacts the whole system. So that stood out to me. Life expectancy rose to 76 years old.
All right, we got some
There
time,
we go.
Trinae.
Going back to the population, it was interesting that non-Hispanic, Asian, and Hispanic Philadelphia residents have increased between the years of 1990 to 2023. And the city's Black and African-American population is the largest racial group in the city.
Yeah, still the plurality of the city, but definitely the city's just more diverse with more immigrants and people from different parts of the world. That wasn't reflective of the city's makeup in the 80s and 70s. And that's definitely a marker of the modern era of Philadelphia.
Another indicator of the state and the city, what's going on? Corruption.
Oh, yeah. Corruption's still going strong.
Did you see that story in the Philadelphia Inquirer?
Bonkers.
Crazy.
So the Inquirer did this story about what happened with the reconstruction of 30th Street Station. They're refurbishing the station, and prosecutors over the last several years have uncovered just this crazy corruption scandal in which the Amtrak manager overseeing this rehabilitation project got bribed by contractors so Amtrak would pay the contractors for work that they didn't actually do. So the Inquirer laid out how this all worked. Ajit Bhaskaran was the project manager, and in exchange for basically writing checks from Amtrak to these contractors for basically no work, he got free meals at Del Fresco Steakhouse, nights out at Ashton Cigar Bar, a trip to Atlantic City in a Hummer limo. He got work done on his Mercedes-Benz. He got watches, a flight and a cruise to the Galapagos Islands with his girlfriend and daughter.
That's where the Philly Fanatic's from.
Oh, maybe. So maybe it was a work trip. He got a German Shepherd puppy that cost $4,700. Two $2,000 tickets to Bruno Mars at the Wells Fargo Center.
It's never that serious.
I mean, the Amtrak was defrauded almost $800,000 out of this whole scandal.
Wait, so like Amtrak passengers basically kind of like fronted this?
Yeah, you got to get this guy his German Shepherd. So think about how many trips to New York had to pay for this guy's dog.
Is that why the ticket prices are high?
It might be part of it. So the guy who is the mastermind behind the scheme, the guy who got all this free stuff, Bhaskaran, has since died, but 5 people have pleaded guilty so far. A 6th person, Mark Sneded, who owns one of the contractors called Mark One Restoration. He's supposed to be arraigned next week. So this was like a big convoluted thing. And it's just another indication that the public projects can be tainted by people who just feel it's in their right to line their own damn pockets.
We've got more news after the break. Mother's Day is coming up, so to celebrate and honor her, gift her with something special, like an Aura digital picture frame. My mom lives in a different time zone, so when she comes to visit us in Philly, we take lots of pictures. I love the one where we're all squeezed on a couch watching Sunday Night Football. Aura Frames was named the best digital photo frame by Wirecutter, and it was featured in 495 gift guides last year. So the next time you need to call your mom, you can also send her a picture of your son at his lacrosse game right from your phone. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Matte frame. That's AURA frames.com. Promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
What sort of promises have you made to yourself this year? Getting in better shape, eating healthier, saving more money, traveling somewhere new? What about discovering a new culture by learning a new language? With Babbel, you can do that in just a few weeks. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in new languages, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations. The Spanish I learned on Babbel really helped me on a recent trip to Mexico City, ordering in restaurants, shopping at the textile market, cheering on at the Lucha Libre, and I've been keeping it up since I got home. You're a podcast listener. I know that because you're listening here. I bet you'll love Babbel's new podcasts. On Eavesdrop in Espanol, which I listen to, you get to listen to a real conversation, then have the teacher host explain back to you. Then you listen again and catch everything. And you can even read along in the transcript. It's a really fun and effective way to learn. Let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Matt, one thing that keeps pissing me off is violence of any kind in the city. But I'm really getting annoyed by these massive meetup groups of teenagers in the city that get violent. Look, I'm a mom. I got kids. I have a teenager. I'm not mad that kids get together. I'm mad when they get destructive, right? And in no way am I saying all teenagers are bad. No. But it's like this thing that a lot of us feel in the city. Like there is this sense of fear when we see like large groups of people in general, but really large groups of teenagers.
Sure.
And then to see, these videos circulating on social media and in the news about the group of teens that assaulted 5 people at Broad and Cecil B. Moore over the weekend is just like, it's just not cool. I get angry about that.
It's on Temple's campus.
It's on Temple's campus. And then, full disclosure, Temple is where I graduated.
Oh, but that's what makes it more personal for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is. It's outrageous.
It is.
Because think about the prospective students who might be coming to Temple. You read a story like this, justifiably makes you nervous.
I mean, even when I went there, and we're talking early 2000s, 2007, 2000, all the way up to 2010, there was always this perception of violence at Temple's campus.
Right.
And you had to kind of be street smart. You have to know how to protect yourself,
Sure,
right? In any city, really.
Sure.
But it was always talked about. So in a letter sent to the Temple University community, University President John Fry, he said that 5 students were assaulted on Saturday and Sunday. Authorities said 8 people had been arrested in connection with the incidents, but they're looking for more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just innocent bystanders were getting assaulted. I think 1 student got robbed. So regardless of it happening at Temple, it could have happened anywhere in the city. It's just not right. And I think there's a number of different things, like having more activities available for young people. And there's amazing groups that have wonderful initiatives and are really trying to help young people in the city, but it's a disconnect.
It was spring break. You imagine that they might have convened via social media. And the cops say they just kind of showed up in large groups, gathered on the streets and the sidewalks. And, it is unsettling if you pass a really large group of teenagers. I think it's okay to say that we can feel a little uncomfortable. You don't know what's going to happen. And, they got a lot of energy and they're kids, but it also, you think of these stories. And I worry for Temple, really, in terms of what this does for current students, prospective students. You could see people, especially from elsewhere in the country. These are people we need to be coming to Temple. We want to be coming to Temple and our local universities. You can see them having second thoughts about actually going to school here because something like this.
And even if you are from Philly and you decide to go to Temple as well, it just doesn't matter. And it also creates this prejudice towards the children and the teens themselves, because there are great groups of kids,
no
right?
doubt.
And they're hanging out with their friends and they're not necessarily doing anything wrong. They're just there.
Yeah.
And I guess we, have to, as the adults and parents, we have to, teach them don't be involved in that, because even if you're there at the scene, you're going to get swept up in it.
Totally.
Just something that just pisses me off.
I got one more public safety update for you.
Okay.
This is related to immigration. We are not seeing yet the promised mass deportations that Trump has pledged to do, but things appear to be changing in the city. A Philly cop seems to have escorted a man who was in court the other day into the hands of immigration enforcement. This man was charged, but the charges were dropped. He was free to leave. And then he was apparently, according to the Inquirer, escorted by a Philly cop to ICE, to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And that would seem to violate Philly's status as a sanctuary city. So it's really something to keep an eye on. What is the police department doing in this regard? How closely are they operating with immigration authorities? Because really, whether or not the tens of thousands of estimated undocumented immigrants in this city will continue to be able to live here and live freely and go to work and whatever else, or whether they will be deported, a lot of that will be determined by how the Philadelphia Police Department, which obviously has a lot more members than the federal immigration authorities in the city, works with those federal immigration authorities and helps ICE with the deportation process. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on. And meanwhile, the city is increasing its funding for residents who might be facing deportation because of this, but only to $950,000 from $500,000. This is in the current proposed budget. And activists, immigration activists, want a lot more money. They're obviously quite fearful that there's going to be so many undocumented immigrants in the city facing deportation that they need as much in the way of legal assistance as they can get.
All right, we'll be back with more news after this break.
Hey, CityCast. According to me and my calculator, you will spend more time this week between the sheets than you will at work. So upgrade your sheets to Cozy Earth. Luxury starts where you rest. I start my evening in buttery soft Cozy Earth bamboo pajamas. Then I dip into a Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set. They are silky and temperature regulating. Forget the 9 to 5. Prioritize your 5 to 9. Cozy Earth products will transform those hours into a sanctuary, and they take comfort seriously with a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty. Luxury should not be out of reach, so Cozy Earth is giving CityCast listeners 40% off their best-selling sheets, towels, pajamas, and more. Visit CozyEarth.com and use the code COZYPHILLY for 40% off, because you deserve a great night's sleep, and sanctuary awaits at Cozy Earth.
The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, onabotulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Matt, Angelo's, who, we all know as having really good cheesesteaks. They're on
And
9th
pizza.
And pizza. They're on 9th and Fitzwater in Bella Vista. And it does get crowded.
Oh, it's crazy.
The lines get long.
And it's a residential neighborhood, essentially.
Right.
It's like close to the Italian market, but it basically is a residential row home neighborhood with a park across the street.
And Bella Vista neighbors are fed up with it. They can't park. It's loud. The noise levels are through the roof. Also, people illegally park their cars in the crosswalks.
Trash.
Tons of trash. And Angela's, you can't eat inside.
Right. There's no place to sit inside, so you got to sit outside on people's stoops. Or
no, you're not allowed to, because there are signs. Angelo posted signs like, be respectful of our neighbors.
But people do it.
But people do it.
They also pee in the bushes.
Ugh.
Or there aren't really bushes, so they pee apparently in front of people's houses.
Oh, that's disgusting. Well, neighbors are fed up. They raised complaints at a community meeting this week. Council member Mark Squilla was there, and they are talking about these quality of life issues.
So, yeah, this is like a issue. They're like a literally, as you said, a world-renowned pizza shop, and people are coming there and there's nowhere else to hang out while they're waiting. It can take like 45 minutes, an hour to get your food. So people are hanging out outside, and there's sometimes I've driven by and there's easily 50 people outside.
What do you think? Do you think this is like a valid complaint?
Yeah, for sure. It seems like to me that they should move to a
bigger location.
Consider moving to a bigger location.
Where though?
Like Washington Avenue, where maybe you could have some more parking. Maybe there's like just a outside area to wait. Maybe there's a place to eat outside, like they have at Pat's and Gino's.
Yeah, but like, what if they just don't have the finances? Like,
I mean,
I know. I'm just saying. But if it was another small business that becomes popular because of Instagram, TikTok, it's not their fault.
Yeah, they're a little bit of a victim of their own success, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm sympathetic to the residents. I can imagine what it might be like to suddenly have this place on my block.
Yes. It could be jarring because they came, Angelo's came to the block 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I would mostly be like pissed about parking. Like parking is
totally
like.
What if they gave free cheesesteaks to anybody who lives on the block? Like you get a free cheesesteak once a week. If that does, as a means
but that doesn't mean that the noise goes away. It doesn't mean the trash goes away. I think the residents should band together, maybe get the help, support from Squilla, and add more trash cans.
From the Councilman Squilla, who's been involved in trying to broker some sort of arrangement here.
I'm sure there's a compromise here.
Yeah.
Right? Let the business be successful. Because you could say the same for other, not even just cheesesteak spots, but other, restaurants that, Philly is just like, it wasn't built to support all these people, So I'm sure there's a compromise somewhere here. But we will see.
Now I'm hungry. Dude, their bread is so good.
Bread is so good. You know what else was really good?
What's that?
You took us, the team, to famous 4th Street Delicatessen.
We went to town. We ate so much.
Those sandwiches. And I got the smoked turkey Reuben. There was a significant amount of turkey in between the two slices of bread that were toasted.
Right.
So good. But your sandwich and Abby's sandwich were like a 3-layered.
Yeah. Yeah, we got one of the specials.
Like classic.
Right.
What is it? Like a pastrami?
We got pastrami, corned beef, Reuben. So it had the sauerkraut and it had the Swiss cheese and the Russian dressing. And we had 3 pieces of bread and a massive amount of meat in between each of those pieces of bread. So you can literally not put it in your mouth.
Yeah, right.
So it's very confusing. And we also had the massive appetizer platter beforehand with the kreplach and the latkes and the whole thing.
So good.
So I only had a quarter of my actual sandwich, and I still didn't eat for another 12 hours afterwards. It was amazing.
If I could maybe give one bit of feedback, I would say give me more sauce. But still, hands down, great service. Yeah. I love the memorabilia on the walls.
Yeah, we sat at a table where Barack Obama and Bob Casey had sat at.
So cool. And then there was also like that old school cash register.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, great place. Speaking of food, Saturday is National Pretzel Day. Go get your pretzels. I'll be getting mine with spicy mustard. How do you like your pretzels?
Spicy mustard, for sure.
Cheese?
No. Although I'll like it if it's inside the pretzel. I'm into
that. They don't make it like that anymore.
I know. Also on Saturday, there's a margarita march. This is something I will not be attending because 8 margaritas is, I think it's 6 too many margaritas. 8 margaritas at 8 bars at the 10th annual Philly Margarita March. It starts off at Wicked Wolf at 12th and Chestnut. And it reminds me of that thing we talked about a few weeks ago, the espresso martini crawl, where I think it was 6 espresso martinis, which is an insane amount of espresso martinis. There's one thing if you're drinking 8 beers, but when you're drinking 8 drinks with all kinds of other stuff in it, like sugar and caffeine, the hangover is just not going to be worth it.
But beer also weighs you down too.
That's true.
Right?
You can keep going with margaritas, I guess.
If it's watered down, because the ice will, save you.
I guess.
So
Wow.
basically, what we've learned this week is that Philly likes to do it big.
Do it. Absolutely.
Do
You're
it
right.
big.
Big sandwiches. Wait for an hour for your big pizza and your 8 margaritas. If you are a glutton for punishment and want to go to this, margaritamarch.com. Let us know how it goes. Good luck. I wanted to say for this weekend, I was hoping folks could think about one thing from history.
Okay.
That I just learned about, and I think it's really interesting. So 60 years ago today, one of the first acts of civil disobedience to protest for gay rights happened right here in the city. This is one of the first public efforts to demand in the country to demand equal rights for gay and lesbian citizens. Happened at 17th and Locust in a diner called Dewey's. This is the spot that later became Little Pete's.
I remember Little Pete.
Yeah. And then they knocked it down. Unfortunately, now it's a high-rise hotel. So it was called Dewey's. It was a diner. And for context, this is 1965, 4 years before the Stonewall riots in New York City, which is probably the most well-known moment in gay rights history from this era. So Dewey's was open all night at the time and was the place to hang out after the bars that catered to gay and lesbian clientele closed. And there were, at the time, a few gay bars in the Rittenhouse neighborhood that folks would go to. And they would go to Dewey's afterwards to eat. And there was suddenly, apparently, a sign and a prohibition against serving gay and lesbian and trans clientele. Like they wouldn't let them sit there. So 3 teenagers and a prominent activist named Clark Pollock, they conducted a sit-in. And they were arrested. They were arrested for disorderly conduct. After that, there were protests, and they handed out leaflets, and there was a second sit-in, and eventually Dewey's reversed its policy and allowed gay and lesbian clientele, or people that they perceived to be gay and lesbian. And this sit-in was really inspired by the movement for civil rights for Black people in the country. It was considered the first ever sit-in in the country for LGBTQ rights. And it's an interesting thing to note. There's a marker actually up on that block that you can, read a little blurb about it 60 years ago today. So when I'm knocking one back this weekend,
Not a margarita.
I'll be thinking of the people sometimes who were forgotten to history, who tried to make our city and country a little fairer to everyone. So cheers.
All right, man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Janae. Talk next week.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Our executive producer is Matt Katz. Our producer is Abby Fritz. Our Hey Philly newsletter editor is Siani Cologne. And our host is me, Trinina Ree. Music is by Philly's own Interminable. Also, sounds from Suncatcher by Wendy Marcini and all the kimonos. If you enjoyed this week of episodes, please tell your neighbor, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Philly. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Have a great weekend and be safe, y'all. Bye.